As a quick disclaimer through this video, you'll hear me say 2023 a few times. This video was recorded before 2024, however, due to Christmas and a few other things coming up, it hasn't been released until now. Thanks for understanding. This is Spider-Man 2. No, not that Spider-Man 2, that one. It released in 2004 for the PS2 and is considered one of the best Spider-Man games ever released. But does it hold up today? That's what I intend to answer by playing through Spider-Man 2, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes this game good or bad, and whether you should be playing it too. But let's find out. Is Spider-Man 2 worth playing in 2023? Let's name our save file, and Tobey Maguire is less than stellar as a voice actor, at least in this game. Somehow, the actor for the Spider-Man of my childhood has made Spider-Man sound like someone who was extremely bored doing a Spider-Man impression. He comes across as very depressed and deflated throughout the majority of the intro, and due to most other lines throughout the game being fairly upbeat by comparison, it gives a very strange rendition of the character of Spider-Man that just feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be.
This is my story. It's the usual thing. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl.
Bruce Campbell gives us our tutorial, but not before this abrupt flick to gameplay and awkwardly long pause where just nothing happens. In fact, I've even managed to say all this before the tutorial even actually starts with time to spare. This is one of a few moments in the game which to me felt quite unpolished, especially given that it's literally the first moment of gameplay in the entire game. Of course, this long pause isn't exactly game breaking, but it's almost everyone's first moments in a game that are a make or break situation. Set up the atmosphere and immerse the player so that they are able to lose themselves in a virtual world with limitless possibilities, or lose that player due to lack of care and attention to even small moments like this which conversely completely break immersion. Another item of note is that the meaning of inverted camera to the developers of this game seems to be the complete opposite of 99% of other games. Up and down by default are inverted, however inverted camera must be turned on for what most people would expect to be normal camera movement. This setting change led to one of my strangest discoveries in any game so far, that being when Spider-Man is standing still, the camera will move left and right as expected, left to look left, right to look right, but with inverted left and right off, when Spider-Man is moving and you try to look left or right, the camera will invert, so that left becomes look right and right becomes look left. Did the developers of this game actively make this choice? If so, I'd like to know where their neck suddenly looks the opposite direction than they expected simply because they were moving. If this is just a simple mistake in camera controls, why wasn't this caught by anyone? It's the default controls. So, with both inverted camera controls turned on, in this case actually meaning off, let's begin our tutorial. I have to say, Bruce is enjoyably savage throughout this tutorial, and it's actually the most fun I've had in a tutorial for a while. No amount of telling you about it can communicate exactly how fantastic this section is, so here's a few highlights for you to enjoy instead.
You don't actually jump until you've let go of the jump button. Okay? Now go jump in a lake. That's because you didn't charge your jump. Am I going too fast for you? Oh, that makes sense, right? Yeah, sure it does. Okay. So the next thing I want you to do is jump off the building. I mean it, just jump. Hey, I wouldn't tell you to do something dangerous and life-threatening, would I?
Following this, I had to find out what would happen if I just didn't swing and let Spidey plummet to his death, and was not disappointed.
So what now, wise guy? Just a little friendly advice while you're falling to your death. You're gonna want to shoot out a web line to save yourself. Anytime now, that pavement's not getting any softer. Hit this swing button, will ya? Ouch! I would work on that landing.
After giving myself the world's fastest concussion, I think it's about time we go off to explore the city, except wait, no, the game has to stop me in this awkward half falling half swinging animation to show this 3-second long cutscene and then immediately throw me to the ground, forcing me to build all of my momentum again. It's little minor details like this which just keep reminding me I'm playing a game and not a particularly cared for game, at least from the perspective of today's standards. I'm aware that games from this kind of time period don't always reflect the same standards of design as games today, but things like this awkward killing of my momentum aren't exactly a new issue no game before this has ever had to deal with, and Spider-Man 2 handles it very poorly. The web swinging in this game has two settings, easy swinging off, the default, and easy swinging on. Maybe it's just me, but I switched to easy swinging within the first hour of playing, but not because of the swinging itself, that actually feels fantastic, but the camera is probably the biggest enemy in this game. I found myself regularly fighting it to both see where I was going and what I was chasing, and having to worry about timing the grabs and releases of my swings as well as managing the camera led to some of the most unenjoyable moments in the entire game. I'm sure with practice, the system can create some truly enjoyable web swinging, but again, when the first hour of a game can entirely kill a player's enjoyment of that game, why should they have to fight the game's systems whilst trying to enjoy it? If I have to spend the first hour of any story-driven game trying to become even vaguely capable of going from point A to point B today, I'm probably going to stop playing that game because it's simply not a fun experience. Finally chasing down the criminals, and the sheer force of Spider-Man's punches are deafening me to whatever Bruce has been saying.
Go teach him about justice. You know, by beating the
the
snot
West
out.
Slinger just showed up.
I mean, this isn't a civics class. What do you expect?
And getting into combat, the game really does feel quite nice, besides the same awkwardness of the camera that seems to persist throughout the game in almost every situation. Spider-Man is light and springy, and just generally a joy to fight with, most of the time. More on that later. The map, while useful, has a strange insistence to blur as much as possible at every level of zoom, but especially when fully zoomed out, making it yet another confusing choice which just gives a really bizarre feeling to the game's design. Like the developers had this really cool idea for an effect and then decided to just implement it without ever actually looking at the finished product. It's not even a good blur effect. This feels like when you went to a 3D movie as a kid and decided to take the glasses off to see what it looked like, only to realize it's basically just what if you watched Spider-Man with your eyes crossed. We got our first upgrade to swing speed, and honestly, through the upgrades I did get in the game, it took more than a few upgrades to notice any discernible difference between them. I then get immediately thrown into a cutscene after a jarring pause and, oh, fantastic, a cutscene that doesn't know how to cutscene. Swinging to the next mission, still in full control of the swinging, it feels like the game isn't ready to give full control, often whipping me in random directions and getting stuck on too many things far too often to be a fun experience. I want to like this game because the gameplay and combat is genuinely fun when it works, but it decides not to work far too often. There's also a strangely eerie silence throughout the entire game, which you would think would give the world a sense of realism, but truly I just found it to be more off-putting and immersion breaking, especially when you're crawling up a building and this is all you hear. I'd like some kind of music to accompany the game at moments between missions because it leads to a lot of the point-to-point travel just being plain boring or even a bit depressing.
Don't let them get the case.
You know, I don't think anything reminds you that you're playing a PS2 game quite like bad voice acting does. What is the excuse for a performance like this? It's not like this was the standard at the time. This game came out the same year as Half-Life 2 and GTA San Andreas.
Give us the case and you won't get hurt. I got her.
I will say though, what an amazing sound effect for someone hitting the floor. I love it, and I hope I hear it every time someone hits the ground from now on. We get this guy's briefcase back, and yeah, could put his hand through the handle maybe, have it on his... Yeah, I guess that works. So, we have our to-do list being introduced. This gives us a list of objectives to complete to enter the next chapter. Seems reasonable.
Come on, Spidey! Quick!
Quick, you say? On my way. Ooh, very fancy. Not sure that's how doors work, but he's trying, I'll give him that.
You really think you're going to win?
It sure looks that way, don't it?
No, it doesn't. Hold on, if you can just instant transmission to your getaway car, why are you robbing armored trucks? Go make millions being the only man in the world who can teleport. Or go to the hospital and get that checked out, because that's just not healthy.
Peter, you made it. Happy birthday.
I don't understand why Peter has to become the Hunchback of New York in every cutscene. He straightens out sometimes, but half the time we see him he's more Spider-Modo than he is Spider-Man.
Hey, MJ. I'm almost afraid to ask, but I won the bet.
And why do you sound so bored? You are Spider-Man. You are every 8-year-old boy's goal in life, and you sound like you're walking into your 9-to-5 office job 10 seconds away from testing your skydiving abilities on the 15th floor.
Hey, pull over.
Yes, very threatening. I'm sure they'll suddenly realize the error of their ways and stop after that one. Good God, it's not like this game is the first to ever have to deal with voice acting, so why does every line sound so bad? I feel like you could have just hired some of the crew who worked on the game. I'm willing to bet some of the developers of this game could have given a better performance than this multiple award-winning professional actor.
How can he be so strong?
Yes, he's so strong, he's able to punch a car so hard, it comes out looking exactly the same afterwards. It's that physics breaking. Amazing. Jokes aside, combat in this game is actually quite good, but everything else to get to the combat is just poorly executed and feels really untested. It feels like the developers just made sure whatever they made worked the first time they put it into the game and then just went, yeah, that's good enough. So, skipping ahead a little bit, we stop some art thieves and give their spines a new way of bending, meeting Black Cat. Honestly, more than anything, I'm surprised there aren't jiggle physics in this cutscene. How many of you just clicked back on the video? glad I've got your attention again. Welcome back. So we have to chase Black Cat through the city, and chase honestly doesn't feel like the right word here. This is a 4-minute, undramatic, leisurely stroll through the city that just feels like it stretches on far too long. Who came up with this idle animation? It's like a half pelvic thrust, fueled by the knees with some head bobbing like a chicken walking. What a bizarre animation. Time for us to go take some photos of the city. The photo location is by the Empire State Building, and so I thought, hey, I'm playing a Spider-Man game, let's go to the top of the tallest building and jump off, see how the game handles it. While I'm up here, by the way, can I just point out, what a glorious map marker. Just completely wants nothing to do with the map anymore. Fantastic. Finally getting to the main event, I jump off, and what a disappointing fall. I had to fight the camera to stay looking down, it kept randomly changing the direction I was facing, it's the standard falling animation the whole way, and the game blurs it so much I can't enjoy the fall regardless. 0 out of 10. Would not jump again. Wall crawling my way back up the building, however, that's actually quite enjoyable. The game handles wall crawling movement really well, and especially as you jump sideways, it just works. This is such an odd game to review because there are some aspects that are done so excellently and others extremely poor by comparison.
Explosion. Better check it out.
Explosion? You're right, that's a big one. We'd best get across the city quickly. Maybe under some kind of time limit with suspenseful music. Oh wait, no, it's just right down there, 4 streets away in the perfectly fine looking area with everyone acting perfectly normally. Well, that's okay, maybe a short time limit to make me rush and no, I'm just there now. Okay then. The only one with any vague semblance of a shadow in this scene is me, and it's not even correct. Why did they render it? During this entire cutscene, I've not even noticed what's going on because I've seen this random red spike in Rhino's neck, and I can't unsee it. Getting into the Rhino fight, the game expects you to time your dodge on this battering ram pillar thing that he wields as he spins, and then punch him when he's dizzy, which seems simple enough. Okay, he's ragdolled me. Trying again. Right, so I die more than a few times here, and I can only assume that this fight, or the dodging mechanic for this fight, is awful. I never had any issues before or after this. The hit registry is so bad for this spinning attack that honestly I have no idea when to hit the button. I experimented over and over with different timings and only ever dodged his spinning attack twice, simply out of pure luck. This doesn't feel like a fight I can improve on, or a fight I'm losing because I'm not grasping the mechanics. Nothing about this fight feels consistent, it just feels like I got lucky that the game seemed to work more on the attempt that I won. That honestly sums up this game entirely for me. I don't feel a level of skill growing as I play. I feel like I'm at the game's mercy in most situations with very little that I can actually do to influence how well it goes. We leave Rhino hanging upside down, and honestly I'm surprised the game actually thought to hang him from something and not just extend a physics-defying web up to the skybox. Nicely done, game. That got me onto a point of wanting to test the game's limits, so when I saw this helicopter I knew what I had to do. After a few moments of just dangling from this helicopter finding out what would happen, I hit this pole and it made me shoot a web to the building next to me, but I was still also holding onto the helicopter as well, so test of strength it is then. And the game crashed. Well, that about sums up the experience of this game, to be honest. Anything the developers expected you to do barely works, but works well when it does, and anything they didn't expect you to do is basically going to look and feel broken, or just break the game entirely. Let's finally answer the question, shall we? Is Spider-Man 2 for the PS2 actually worth playing in 2023? If you can look past all of its very prevalent issues, there is a good game under here. It's just so hard to actually get past those issues that by 2023 standards, this game doesn't even really feel worth mentioning. Perhaps at the time of its release, it could have been more enjoyable, but compared to other games I reviewed from this same era and before, like Rayman Revolution, there's an extreme lack of polish and care in this game that really just can't be overlooked. At its best, it feels like an 8 out of 10 game, but at its more consistently worst, it feels like a 6 out of 10. It's worth playing to see if you enjoy it, maybe, but I personally wouldn't recommend it to someone. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy my review on Rayman Revolution, as well as the rest of the Is It Worth Playing playlist. If you're still watching even after all of this, thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate it.